Welcome to Angel Impact, the official podcast of the Wisconsin River Business Angels. Episode 11, Value and Use. All right, hello everyone. My name is Aaron Marks, and I'm pleased to be with you on this episode of Angel Impact. Angel Impact is the official investment podcast of the Wisconsin River Business Angels, otherwise known as the WRBA. And the WRBA has the distinction of, among other things, being Central Wisconsin's only angel investment group. And I'm here as always with the leadership of the WRBA. I'm here with President Jeff Ebel. How's it going, Jeff?
Great.
Good.
Good morning.
Good. Same here. And then I'm also here with the chair, Leon. How are you, Leon? Leon
I'm doing fine. Thank you very much.
Good, good. So, we've been kind of doing a series about the due diligence process and quantifying and valuing investments. And so today our discussion is going to be about quantifying the value and the use that that investment companies provide to determine whether they're good investments, basically. And Jeff, you just shared with us when we were preparing for this episode that basically there's one question that everything comes down to, and from that so many things. Whether the entrepreneur is coachable, if they're in touch with this question. You know from the answer whether it's a good investment. So tell us, what is that question?
How much should I charge for my product or service?
Oh, golly, that's such a hard question. I mean, as an entrepreneur, I can tell you that keeps me up at night.
Yeah.
So how do we find the answer?
Oh, there's a number of ways to find the answer. One is to throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And that's typically the way a lot of people do it. Or they look at their competition, say, well, Joe down the road, he's charging, X dollars for it.
But if I know you guys, and I think I do, then you
to compete with them, I got to come in under his price. So then they drop their price.
Right.
And that has no real bearing on really what the value of your product or service is.
And you're not going to make an angel investment in a company that makes its decisions that way, right? And
nope.
And you're suggesting maybe there's a more scientific approach, right?
There is a more scientific approach.
Right.
Yeah. So who wants to talk about that?
Well, let me take a stab at it. We talked about segmenting the marketplace to start with. Okay.
Yeah.
Then we pick in the top value, the highest value one to start with. And then to start with that, we really have built hypotheses, and guided by these hypotheses we built, we then ask 4 simple questions when we're out interviewing these experts. We ask this expert, what is being used now? How do you do it today? So he's going to tell you all about the products, all the services, and how this is done. And he'll tell you who are the competition, how does the channels to the market work. So that simple question, how do you do it now, is giving you an awful wealth of information on the competition. And once you have all that information, you go on to the second question. Well, what does it cost now? If it's a cost for their particular process or product that they're using, he'll tell you it's basically I pay this amount and such, but if I get this service with it, it's that much more or it's that much less. And therefore, that's what it's costing me today. And then you come back with the third question. The third question is, say, if you had to do it all over again, what would you do different? Or if you had to say, and say another dimension, another way of asking that question, say, what's wrong with how you're doing it now? And if it's their baby, sometimes you don't want to use that method. Just say, if you want to make improvements, what improvements would you want to make?
Yeah.
And then that's non-threatening. And then they'll tell you, say, here's what's really not right. If they only packaged it up differently, I could save myself a lot of time and money, and my customers could save a lot of time and money, and it would be worth a lot more to me. I could charge a higher price for my thing. Well, that really begs the fourth question. If you did that, what would it be worth? So now you start looking at the dimensions between the way they do it now and the way they'd like to have it done. How much time would that save you? Time is money. Number 2, how many people are involved in that? What is the skill level you need to do that? And number 2, and then you also have additional dimensions that come back and tell you what other things are important and what are they worth? Well, this one, if we could just make it look prettier, that would have a lot of value to me. Well, how are you going to quantify that value? And you can do that by trial and error. Say, if it was if it's a bandage and you don't want a black bandage, you really want to have a pretty blue one because that's what the kids like. What is the value of a blue one versus a black one? Well, the black one, you might say, I'd never buy that, because it just doesn't look right. But a blue one looks sort of enticing. And, I would pay, another 25% premium for that. Well, what is the cost of a dye if you're selling bandages? It maybe cost you another 5% more. And he's telling you I can get 25% more if I have that product with those colors. You say, okay, how much do we want to charge? Well, we can charge maybe another 10% more, and then he's taking 10% to the bank. So you're both winning. And so those are the way you use those four questions. You now know the competition, the price, how they get it to market, and so forth. And you really have them laying out the channel of distribution. And when you want to find this product, where do you look for it? These are all things that we won't get on just one interview. That's what we get by the time we get to the sixth or seventh or eighth interview, because
Yeah.
we got all the first questions answered. We then get the more in depth on the other ones. And that's
Yeah.
the in-depth understanding of the need that really is required for a successful business.
So it astounds me, Leon, that the level, the granularity to which you're able to quantify, these the value of these products or services, and figure out exactly what people are going to be willing to buy for, or willing to pay for these. I want to go on a very intentional and as brief as possible tangent with you just for a second here, and I was wondering, could you offer just one little story about your time in Japan that illustrates you making this calculation, getting to know a new culture and, having some cultural understanding of something affect the valuation of a company, or a product or service. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, let's go to Japan.
Uh-huh.
The company where I was with made the silicone caulk. This is the rubbery stuff that went around the bathtub, and it was rubbery, and it allowed the tub not to leak beyond the ceramic tile, and use it around windows, doors, and so forth. And that product had a nice clean smell here. It sort of had that smell of acetic acid. And they said, oh, that's a nice clean smell. People
Mhm.
liked it. And the contractors, when they use it, liked it.
What is something
Well,
that smells like that people would know? Do you know?
vinegar.
Vinegar. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, vinegar. That's
Yeah.
the type of smell it had.
Yeah.
And vinegar, to many people here, is a clean smell.
Yeah.
Well, when we found out why aren't we selling this product in Japan, it's really not moving at all. And yet they have the same types of equipment and bathrooms and so forth and the same needs. And when we went into there and really understood that, we discovered there was a cultural bias. And this is these emotive things that you got to quantify. What's the emotive thing here? The emotive thing was that this smells like dead fish. That's what the acetic acid smell, vinegar smell to them.
Interesting.
I'm not going to put dead fish around in my bathtub and so forth. So it's the
Yeah.
image that was in their mind. So what did we have to do? We went back and changed the chemistry. So we had one that we had that didn't have any smell, substitute that product, still give it the same label and the same target markets,
Huh.
and it didn't have the smell, which is an emotive thing.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with the product
Yeah.
other than, and that business took off, and
Oh wow.
it was fantastic and great. And no, that's one example of how an
Yeah.
example was. A second one was when we had hurricanes in the area of Galveston. These high rises had the windows blown out after a hurricane came through there. People says, well, look, that one hasn't got any windows out. There's another one without the windows. What's different? Every one of those were installed and sealed and glued with a silicone adhesive sealant to hold that glass to the structure. And see, that rubber there causes that system to give, so it redistributes the stress, and it's not rigid in there, so the wind blowing on the glass doesn't break it. So those all held in place.
Hmm.
And what happened as a result of that? All of a sudden, every architect specified silicone caulks, and that's all that's used today in these high-rise
Wow.
buildings. So
Yeah.
that's how trends can affect the market. And a trend is a long, slow process to see a change, but then things can change real rapidly, like this hurricane.
Mhm.
There's a very quick way to respond. That can open up your opportunity to commercialization much
Yeah.
faster than having to spend a lot of money to explain that to people. They could
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah. And Leon, hearing you tell those stories, yeah, it just always astounds me how how well in touch you are with all these little forces that shape demands and valuation for products. Jeff, I thought it might be a good time to bring you in. And when we're talking about this process that you have to subject a product, service, and resulting business to, you're really looking for a very particular kind of entrepreneur who can kind of receive that information and not take it personally, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I tell them take their bunch of balloons into a room full of porcupines and
That's kind of
you know,
earthy.
let them poke holes in it. You've got to be thick-skinned if you're going to be an entrepreneur. You've
Yeah,
got to be thick-skinned,
yeah,
and what you think is the most perfect product may not be what the market thinks is the most perfect product.
yeah,
And I just want to reflect on something that when Leon mentioned those four questions that were asked, please notice that none of those questions ever talked about your product or service.
mm-hmm.
These questions were to find out what the customer wants, what the channels, and these are some of the things that you discover through these interviews. You discover the supply chain and the channels of distribution, so you learn a lot more than just from the end user. And then also Leon touched on um, the two ways of valuing. There's the emotive and the economic value,
Yeah,
and every product or service has both at varying degrees, and you need to discover what the value is in each one of those categories. And you do that again by asking the questions and then listening carefully to the answers, because you may get answers that you don't like.
yeah,
And unless you're thick-skinned again, and you can take that information, you're going to fall into the trap that many uh, losing entrepreneurs have fallen into. Or they lose their business, or they were a failure to launch.
yeah, yeah,
Let's add one dimension to those four questions. Those four questions are really delving into the function that's being performed. That's why we don't need to talk about the product. If we talk about the function that that
Function.
product performs and we deal with the function,
mm,
then we will know whether your product fits or what improvements are needed. You don't need to
Mhm.
talk about your product. And then you start finding out the function in the case of this high-rise building was, and glass was sealing. How do you do your ceiling now in your high-rise glass things? And then you say, well, what's wrong? Well, I don't like when the windows blow out in a hurricane. And say, what is it worth if you don't have to do that? Think of the cost associated putting all those glasses back in there. So you say, hey, getting a good product that's already maybe refined it a little bit more to make it more suitable, and then you get it spec'd by the architects, you've got a very protected position. So you built yourself a moat around your opportunity, and now you can go in there, even though you got competition with similar products, they probably can't do it because you got the specs all tied down.
yeah, yeah. All right. It's just it's always fascinating to hear the way you guys think about the businesses that you invest in, and how it's like, yeah, it's all about the opportunity, it's all about the need. It's the product is, it's simply a way to fill the need, and
Mhm.
kind of route it through the marketplace, right? And this is what angel investing is all about, is it's just thinking incredibly objectively and clearly through that process and guiding companies to basically fill those needs. And then if they can do that, they'll be scalable, right?
Yeah, and again, in entrepreneur classes, the first question is, what problem are you solving? What's the problem?
Yeah,
Identify the problem first,
yeah,
and then what's your solution to it?
yeah,
Those are absolutely the two critical core elements of any business. It can be an unmet need too. That's how I use those terms in
yeah,
interchangeably. Unmet need, or a problem that you're solving.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Very good. Okay. Well, I hope that listening to this has given angel investors an appreciation for the depth of thought that both Jeff and Leon bring to their due diligence process, uh, and the way that they, are able to, guide, and I mean, almost engineer, is probably not too strong a way to say it. The companies that are in their care, to become scalable and really thrive at, uh, solving those problems and those unmet needs that the market has, because they know that is how you build a scalable company. And um, that pervades the due diligence process. It's built into every single level of what they do. So I hope you have an appreciation for that, and I hope entrepreneurs listening to this are having their thinking shifted about yeah, about how one creates a profitable business, and that you always have to be thinking about the unmet need yourself. Because as an entrepreneur, I can tell you, I don't spend nearly enough time thinking about that as I should, and I know that would give me a different result if I spent more time thinking about it. So yep, I hope whoever you are, this gave you something to think about, and I know it's given me very many things to think about. So this has been Angel Impact. My name is Aaron Marks, and I've been here with Jeff Ebel, the president of the Wisconsin River Business Angels, and Leanna Ostrowski, who's the chair. And Angel Impact is the official investing podcast of the Wisconsin River Business Angels, and that's Central Wisconsin's only angel investment group. We'll see you next time on Angel Impact. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Aaron.
Thanks for listening to Angel Impact, the official podcast of the Wisconsin River Business Angels. To learn more about the Wisconsin River Business Angels, visit the website at www.midwestwealthventures.com or find us on Facebook. Angel Outtakes. Enjoy this brief, playful glimpse behind the scenes of the Angel Impact podcast. Yeah. Let's see. Okay.
And besides that, I'm all dressed up.
You sure are. You don't want to waste that. Yeah.
I got my sweatpants on here, my working sweat.
So that ended up being a two-part series, but okay. So that is done.
You could do a whole thing on value and use and determining the value of the opportunity. That could be anywhere from 7 to 10 minutes.
I was tempted to go there, Jeff, and I
know you were. I know, and that's why I was.
I did not want to.
Yeah,
that was going to blow the time element.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that really gets into our 4 questions and saying, oh,
exactly. And I think
how do we get the information?
I think we could go in there now. We could do that.
I think we can too.
Okay.
Exactly.
I had another thought that would have tied a bunch.
Well, go ahead.
No, it was that I had a thought while Jeff was talking that I forgot to add it at the end, but it would have been good. Whatever. It's all right. It's just like there was something that Jeff said. It's like, oh yeah, that's it's like the entrepreneur going into these sessions and having questions instead of answers. Like that is the entrepreneur being coachable, right?
Right.
Which is why you look at that first.
Right.
Before you do this. Yeah. Anyway, value and use and quantifying, right?
Yeah. And here's a good opening question is that because, and I get this all the time in my entrepreneur classes, how much should I charge for my product or service?
Okay.
And show me one entrepreneur that doesn't have that question, and there's probably somebody that's not coachable.
Okay, that could be the title of the episode right there.
Yeah,
you bet. And I think if you hit that right on, that's the essence of
should we just jump in with that question and see where it goes?
Sure. And okay. Then we base the value of an opportunity on the answer to that question.
Yeah. Okay.
How big, and then also the other part of that is how many customers are out there that will pay that.